So let's start working with Bootstrap. The first section of this course, I'm gonna show you what the framework contains, at least the most popular classes and components. And you will find in the course materials a file called Learning Bootstrap. If you download that file and decompress, you will find something like this. We have several files, they are HTML. And then you can see we have a folder called CSS. This one contains the link to Bootstrap, the style sheet, and a style.css file. Then we have some images. We're going to be using these in this section. And then a JavaScript file. This one contains the links to jQuery, the Bootstrap JS, and some other libraries that the framework needs to work. So we're going to open this folder into our editor. I'm going to be using Atom for the rest of the course, but you can use any editor that you prefer. Next, I'm going to close this. We're going to start working with the file called 01-grid. So let's double click here. And now you can see that we have something like this. I have already added some styling and some HTML. You can see that we have Learning Bootstrap 4, and we have the name of the course, Learn Bootstrap 4, the most popular HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and framework. And if you open one of these files, let's open the 01-grid. You can see that we have this here on the top. I have already added some classes. At the moment, ignore this. I have the text Learning Bootstrap and the text right here. And we have the grid, the name of the current lecture. You can see that we have grid right here. We're going to focus on the content that is here on the main tag. In this video, we're going to start working with the grid, but download these files, and I'm going to tell you which files you have to open and what you need to write to get the same results. So let's create first a container in Bootstrap. In Bootstrap, you use classes to work with the CSS part of the framework. So for example, you can see that we have main content and we're using an h2 is right here. And then we have several paragraphs. You can see that we have something like this. They are right here. And then we have the sidebar right here and two other paragraphs. So we have the main class, and this one is wrapping the main content and the sidebar. So we're going to apply some classes to work with the grid. And for example, you can see that this content is really pushed to the left and is touching the edges of the window here in the browser. So Bootstrap provides two different containers. The first one, and I'm gonna add a class. You almost in all the components use a class, and I'm gonna add a class called container. So let's add container and reload. And now you can see that the content is being centered right here. So we're adding a container that is centering the content in the page. So almost all the websites use this technique. They add something to center the content in the page. But for example, let's say that you don't want this, you want to take all the space that is available in the window, you can use container fluid. So reload, and now you can see that we have something like this. But you can see that I'm using container fluid, and here I have some spacing right here. And that's because when you use a container in Bootstrap, you have to add another class. So I'm gonna be using a div, but you can use a section, an article, or anything. So I'm gonna be using a div, and for example, I'm going to add a row. I'm gonna cut this closing div, and I'm gonna paste right here in the main. So this way, the row is gonna be grabbing all the content. So you have to use these classes, and the closing should grab everything that you want to use inside this row. So let's reload, and now you can see that it's working. So now we have the content pushed to the left. But I'm gonna remove this. I'm gonna be using the container, the standard container. You can see that we have a mess right here. Now we have the main content and we have this text. The sidebar is right here. That's because we need to add an extra element. And here is where we're gonna start working with the grid. I'm gonna add another div, and I'm gonna cut this closing div, and I'm gonna paste right here before the sidebar, the h2. So this way, the class that I'm adding or that I'm using here on this div is only apply to the main content and this text. So Bootstrap uses a 12 column grid. So for example, let's say that the main content should take more space than the sidebar. You can use something like this. You can use col, then a dash, and then you pass a number, and this number should be a number between 1 and 12. So I'm gonna be using 8, and I'm gonna create another div. And here I'm gonna be using col 4. Remember that Bootstrap is a 12 column grid, so I'm gonna be using 8 plus 4 is going to be equals to 12. So I'm gonna save this and reload. And now you can see that we have the main content here on the left and the sidebar here on the right. And using these classes, the website is going to be responsive. So let's click here on drag and resize the window, and now you can see how the content is adapting to the different screen sizes. But you can see, for example, that we are using the same pattern. You can see that we have content on the left taking more space than the sidebar. And let's say that we make this smaller, maybe in a font, and you can see that the main content is taking more space than the sidebar. Well, you can create multiple classes. You can use different classes in Bootstrap. So let's say that we want to make the main content on the sidebar take the full width when we are in the mobile device. I'm gonna change this 8 to 12. And this way, each content is going to tell all the space that is available. So save this and reload. Now you can see that it's working. We have main content and we have sidebar on the bottom. But if we make this bigger, you can see that it's not being using the, or it's not being applying the width that we previously added. So you can mix, or you can create another class. You can add another class, maybe call MD8, and maybe you can add call MD4. And the MD stands for medium size. So for example, if anyone is visiting the website in a tablet, they are gonna see the main content taking more space than the sidebar. But if someone visits the site in a phone, it's gonna take the full width each part of the content. So now you can save this and reload, and you can see that the main content is here on the left and the sidebar on the right. And if I resize this, you can see that the main content is on the top and the sidebar is on the bottom. And Bootstrap makes this really easy. If you have already done this using CSS, it's a little complex. You have to use some media queries. In Bootstrap, you only use these classes. So let's add another one. I'm gonna add call SM6, and SM stands for small. In the next videos, I'm gonna show you the different sizes that these names apply. So I'm gonna copy this and paste right here. So you can see that in the small device, I'm using 6 and 6. The zoom makes 12. 8 plus 4 also is 12. So let's reload this. And you can see that when we are in the medium size and bigger, is applying these classes, colMD and colMD4. And let's say that I make this smaller, something like this, one more. You can see that it is taking half of the width, each of these sections of our website. So you can be really creative with these classes. You can mix them, and this way you can, at the end, you will have the design that you have in your mind.